What is up? It is your boy, Mickey G, and this is a little different than the last couple of predicting things I've done. This is obviously not the NFL, that season is over, but I am a huge NFL guy, as we know, but I'm also a big movie guy. You might not know, but the Oscars are tonight on March 2nd, and I know a thing or two about film. And I also know that the Academy's going to get it wrong. Okay, they don't know ball like I know ball, so I'm here to tell you the ball that I know. So the idea here is I'm going to tell you everyone nominated for each award, and I'm going to tell you who I want to win, who I think's going to win, and then who I think was just snubbed from a nomination entirely. Pretty simple, make sure you watch it tonight and find out for yourself if I was right. And also, and maybe more importantly, follow me on Letterboxd, okay? I watch movies all the time, and you can find out which ones are good for you to watch by looking at my reviews on Letterboxd. So there's a little push for you to go check that out. But anyways, let's jump right into it. Starting off, we have the Academy Award for Actor in a Leading Role. The nominees this year are Adrien Brody in The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Colman Domingo in Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes in Conclave, and Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice. Now, who I want to win this is, I think Colman Domingo deserves it, okay? I was able to watch Sing Sing just this past week, which is an incredible film, which I might go into a little bit more later, but it is... Colman Domingo in that movie has, I think, the best performance of the year, except for maybe one. But unfortunately, that one is not nominated. I think what Domingo does in that is great. He's big at times, he's small at times, he's able to go between those two things, and it's just overall a great performance. Unfortunately, who I think is going to win, as I can see Adrien Brody getting a second Oscar win here. A lot of people like The Brutalist. It's a movie that feels like it should be Oscar nominated. It's grand, it's huge, it's epic, and I would not be surprised if The Brutalist takes away a lot of awards tonight. The other nominees, there's two that I want to point out real quick, Chalamet and Stan. I think both of them were actually nominated for the wrong movie. Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice is actually the only one of the five films for actor in a leading role that I have not seen, but I did see Sebastian Stan in A Different Man, and I think he was fantastic. I think that should have been the movie that he was nominated for, and not the Donald Trump movie. Timothée Chalamet, nominated for A Complete Unknown. I think he should have been nominated for Dune. I think Dune is my movie of the year. We're going to see that later, and I think it's just maybe a little behind Oppenheimer for me. I was going to say maybe best of the decade, but Oppenheimer is really that movie. So it's tough for me to put anything above that. But I think Chalamet for Dune should have won. That's my snubbed from nomination, my first spot there. The Ralph Fiennes in Conclave, I think, also did a great job. It's just not enough for me to put it up there. Some of the other ones snubbed from, I think, nomination. Adam Driver in Megalopolis. Now, some people are going to be like, whoa, Megalopolis. Here's the thing. I think Megalopolis is a 5-star, 10 out of 10 amazing film. I had an incredible time watching it in theaters. I laughed. I cried. I don't think I cried. I laughed. I don't think I cried, but I think I did get a little emotional. I won't lie to you. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great, and I think the Academy is cowards for not nominating it, and I think they just truly don't know ball, and I think anyone who disagrees also just misses the movie. They're like, oh, it can't. A lot of people were saying, oh, it's funny, but like I don't think it's supposed to be. There's a major boner joke at one point in it. That movie is supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be grand and epic, and it is, and I love it, and it's awesome, and you should watch it. Another group that I think was snubbed from nomination for Best Actor is the Josh Connor, Mike Faust duo from Challengers. Now, they might be technically supporting actors, or I think they're kind of co-leads. But my thoughts is those duo, one of them should have been nominated. I don't know which one. It's a very together performance for me. I don't think there's one without the other. So I understand the difficulty of picking one of them to be nominated, so I think that's part of the reason why they're not. But also, Challengers just didn't get anything at all in Oscar nomination. land. So I don't know what they watched this year, but they missed out on that one. I think also Josh Hartnett in Trap was a fantastic performance. Oh, it's a little goofy, Shyamalan movie. He can't be nominated for that. He should have been. He was awesome. He was great. I think another big one is Jesse Eisenberg in A Real Pain. There's a lot of talk about Kieran Culkin's performance in that movie, and I think people are sleeping on Eisenberg in it. I think he gives just as important of a performance, and he is technically the lead, I guess, in that film. I think it's another one of those where it's co-leads. So Culkin being nominated for supporting actor is a little, in my opinion, but I think Eisenberg does a great job in that, and I wish he would get his flowers for it. And then I already mentioned Sebastian Stan in A Different Man, but that's my thoughts for the lead actor. I hope it goes to Domingo, but I have a feeling it goes to Brody. For supporting actor, the nominees are Yura Borisov in Anora, Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain, Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice. Once again, The Apprentice, the only one I did not see on that list. I was thinking about it, debating whether or not I wanted to watch a 8th movie this week, and I just decided not to do it. The lead up, maybe I'll have to rethink that, but I just didn't really feel like watching the Donald Trump movie. Sue me. I couldn't get myself to do it. Who I want to win this one is I would be fine with Borisov or Guy Pearce. I think Borisov in Anora is a great performance. It's a very quiet performance. I think a lot of times get overlooked, just like Lily Gladstone did last year in favor of Emma Stone. I think Lily Gladstone had the better performance. Now, I didn't see Emma Stone's movie, but Lily Gladstone I think was fantastic in Killers of the Flower Moon, but it was, again, a quieter performance, and a lot of times the Academy doesn't go for that. So I'm glad to see that he is nominated, Borisov is, but I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see it happen. Guy Pearce, I think, is the best performance of The Brutalist. I think he outshines Brody when he's in it. I think Brody might even be like the 3rd or 4th best performance in that movie. But I don't think he's going to go for that. There's a tough part in the movie that I don't think a lot of the voters are going to be able to get over. It's going to be awkward for them to want to vote for him. So I don't think it's going to happen there. I do think Kieran Culkin is going to win. He's been winning most of the other awards leading up to the Oscars, so I'm expecting that it's going to go his way. I think Norton isn't quite there for me to get it, and I didn't see Jeremy Strong, but I've heard good things, but I don't think he's going to win for the Donald Trump movie if he's not Donald Trump. Some of the other ones that I think got snubbed from it, I think, like I mentioned, the duo from Challengers, I think they were snubbed. I think this is a spot where they could have been. Supporting or lead, I'm still not totally sure where I think they are. Shia LaBeouf in Megalopolis was fantastic. Austin Butler in Dune, Faye Rotha, absolutely incredible. Really got me excited for that movie, seeing he was going to be in it, and then I sat and watched that movie 3 times in theaters because I couldn't get enough of it, and a lot of that was Austin Butler. I also think Diaz in Conclave, another quiet performance. Not nominated. I'm a little surprised by that, honestly, but I think it was a deserved performance. I think he was great in it, and the whole movie, I was shocked I had heard so little about his performance compared to some of the others. It is a little bit of a smaller role than a lot of these, but I think he's great in it. Denzel Washington in Gladiator, I don't know if it's quite an Oscar performance, but he was the best part of Gladiator, and I loved Gladiator, so I think he deserves to be talked about. And then Macklin in Sing Sing is a very impressive thing. Sing Sing is all about program in prisons where they have the inmates join a theater program to help rehabilitate them, and a lot of the cast was, in fact, people had gone through that, and Macklin was one of them, and I think he gives probably, I want to say, like, my favorite supporting performance. I would probably vote for him even above Borisov and Pearce, who I do like a lot in their respective movies, but what he did in that, and for it being his first real film role, I think is extremely impressive, and I will look forward to seeing him in more things. I am guaranteeing he will be because of his performance in that. Next, we have the lead actress. The nominees are Cynthia Erivo in Wicked, Carlos Sofia Gascon in Emilia Perez, Mikey Madison in Anora, Demi Moore in The Substance, and Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here. My pick, I think it should go to Fernanda Torres and I'm Still Here. I didn't know a lot about the film going into it, and her performance was really impressive. She has a lot of moments that are a lot more subtle, where it's a quiet part, but then when she goes big, and you're feeling it. And I think that's really important. I think being able to do both is very big, and I hope the Academy takes that into account. I don't know if that's going to be the case. A lot of the award shows have been going after Demi Moore to win, and I expect that's probably going to be how it goes. Now, I didn't see Wicked, and I didn't see Emilia Perez. I'd be saying, Micah, there's been a lot of films so far that you haven't seen. So far, it's been 3, okay? It's only been 3 that I haven't seen. And, that's just like the Academy anyways, every week leading up to this, there's been a new report. It's like, oh, anonymous ballot from Academy member. Oh, by the way, I didn't watch half of the movies. Like, here I am. I'm just a guy, okay? And I didn't watch them all. And then there's members of the Academy who are voting on this thing, and they're like, yeah, no, I didn't actually see Dune. So it's just not going to win anything, and it's going to be very upsetting because of that. I don't feel the need that I should have watched them. I think these 2 movies, I'm not missing anything. A lot of people that I trust their opinions on these things have both said these movies should not be nominated the way they are, as much as they are. And because of that, I didn't feel the need to take my time and go check that out. And so I think some of the other performances that are not put up there, that should be, I think Anya Taylor-Joy in Furiosa was awesome. I think that is the best Mad Max movie, and the lead is a big part of that. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is great in that. She's fierce and she's cool, and it's just a great spot for her. I think also Lily Rose Depp was great in Nosferatu. Some people can't handle a serious movie apparently and think that it was not a serious enough role, which I don't know what movie you watched, but that's just not the case. I think she was great in it. She was able to be scary at times when she was having convulsions and things like that, and also be a very tragic character at times. And I think that's important to be able to be done in a role and be able to do it well. I think Zendaya in Challengers is another one that was completely locked out of this. All of the Challengers roles and stuff were just not even close to being put up for anything, and I think that's ridiculous because I think the movie was great. And I think Zendaya is giving probably her best performance in that movie, and to not get any flowers for it, I think is a little upsetting for me. I also think Jodie Comer in Bike Riders was a great performance. She carries that movie. There's little Austin Butler thrown in, and we get Tom Hardy as well. I mean, he's great, but I think Jodie Comer's doing a lot in that movie, but people were like, oh, her accent sounds a little weird, so I don't like it. That's the actual person's accent that she's doing. It's not just a random accent she decided to do for the role. It's pretty spot on when you hear them both side by side, too. And there's a lot of great stuff that she does in that. And, she gets angry, she gets sad. I mean, she's going through a whole range of emotions here. And I think people just missed that. I don't think a lot of people saw Bike Riders, and I think that's unfortunate because I think it's a pretty good movie. I think moving into the supporting actress spot, nominees were Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande in Wicked, Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini in Conclave, and Zoe Saldana in Emilia Perez. Once again, I did not see Wicked or Emilia Perez. We've been over that. However, I do think there's going to be a win here for Emilia Perez in this. I think Zaldana is going to take it. That's been winning a lot of the award shows so far, and I think that is likely going to continue. It's nominated for, I think, the most awards of all the movies this year, so for it to not win anything is just not realistic, even if I don't want it to. I think it's going to happen. I think this is one of the ones that it's going to get. However, I would like Felicity Jones and The Brutalist to get it. I say this a lot, there's some quiet moments of the performance that I think are really good, and I think that's important to look at. And then also, when she goes big, it's really good, and that hits you hard. A lot of emotion in that role, and at times a little tough to watch. I am seeing a lot of people talk about Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown as someone who's going to get this, and I think she did a good job, but I don't. It didn't move me as much as it seems a lot of other people it did for some reason. And then Isabella Rossellini, I think she did a great job, but I think she's in her movie the fewest out of all of the other members of any of the acting roles so far. And so it'd be really tough for me to give it to her. While I think it's a good performance, I just don't think there's enough of her to award the actress in supporting role. Um, and I think there might have been some people that were better suited for it. I think specifically Rebecca Ferguson in Dune is doing great stuff as the mother of Paul Atreides. She's scary and she's just kind of terrifying, honestly, as a leader of the whole religious uprising that's happening surrounding Paul Atreides, and I think it's really good stuff there. I also think Aubrey Plaza in Megalopolis is a funny and entertaining performance that is getting overlooked because it is in Megalopolis, like the rest of the Megalopolis roles that were overlooked. And I think she does a great job, and I think she should be, awarded for it. And I also think Margaret Qualley in The Substance. A lot of people are talking about Demi Moore in that, and while I do think she does a great job, I think without Margaret Qualley's side of the performance as well as the other side of the coin, I think you miss a lot. And so for her not to be nominated, I think is really unfortunate. And I hope she gets her flowers sometime later in her career. That's enough for there. Moving into the animated feature. Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot. I only ended up seeing 2 of these movies, which I feel a little bad about. But I really did not have any interest in Inside Out 2, and I'm a little goofy about it. But for the Wallace and Gromit, I like to watch. If I'm going to watch a new part of a series, I like to watch all the ones before it, and I just didn't end up getting around to it. I just kept putting it off, and then I missed the date. So I'm a little, mad at myself for that one. Memoir of a Snail, I've heard great things, but it wasn't grabbing me enough. Similar to The Apprentice, I thought about it a couple times, and then it just didn't end up happening. It just was never my choice at the time. But Wild Robot and Flow, I think, are great films, and I think The Wild Robot is the better one. But I do think the Academy is going to go with Flow. I mean, they put it up even for Best International Film, which I think is a big nod for that. And I think the animation in it is great. I think the animation in both of the ones that I saw was really, really impressive. And Flow seems a little bit more like an Oscar-nominated film to me. I think Wild Robot, like I said, is great, but I think Flow is just, there's something about it that seems like the Academy would like it. I think that's why it's nominated for the things that it is. Next is animated short. This is the first time in a while that I've actually seen a lot of the shorts. I was able to go to the theater yesterday, and they played all of the live action and animated shorts in like a big 3-hour showing. So I got to go through and see all of those, but the nominations for that are Beautiful Men, In the Shadow of the Cypress, Magic Candies, Wander to Wonder, and Yuck. Yuck was probably my least favorite of those. It's a weird French thing. The French are weird. I don't like the French, so that one's staying down there. Magic Candies, however, is probably my favorite. That was a fun Japanese one. Animation for me, a lot of times I like it to be a little more light. I like it to have maybe a happier ending kind of thing. And I think Magic Candies has the happiest of the endings of all of them. And I think it might be the most surface level, but I think it's really cool what they did with the animation, and I like the story a lot. I think it was just really fun, and that's what did it for me. I do think that In the Shadow of the Cypress has a good shot of taking this award. I really did like the animation in this. It's a little confusing at times. I don't really like how it ends totally, but overall I think it was really, really good. And that's my expectation for what it's going to win. Next, we have cinematography. The nominees for this are The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Maria, and Nosferatu. Emilia Perez and Maria, I both did not see. I didn't get around to Maria. I was interested in it, but kind of just ran out of time, so that's my fault. The other 3, I think, do have great cinematography, and I think it should go to Dune. I think Dune just did a really, really good job with the scale of everything, and the cinematography is a huge part of that. And I also think that The Brutalist does a very good job, but I think Dune is better, but I do think The Brutalist will probably get it, but I'm hoping that Dune does. Now, some of the ones that I think were snubbed from this, I think Megalopolis, another one that has that huge grand scale, and I think the cinematography is a huge part of that. Furiosa in a similar spot. Challengers, I think, is just a wonderfully, beautifully shot movie. And Nickel Boys has a very tough thing that holds on. And maybe this is more of a directing thing rather than cinematography, which I also think it should have been nominated for. But the majority of the film is in point of view shots, and I think to be able to do that well is a huge thing, and so cinematography definitely plays into that for sure. Costume. The nominees are Complete Unknown, Conclave, Gladiator 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. Complete Unknown is just a period piece. Those are always get a lot of likes. Conclave, I'm a little confused by this one. Everyone kind of wears the same thing. I mean, everything looks good. I mean, it's on point. I mean, it makes sense what they're wearing and stuff. But I'm a little surprised that this got nominated over maybe some of the other things. Gladiator 2, another period piece. Nosferatu, another period piece. And then Wicked. I did like Nosferatu a lot. A huge fan of Robert Eggers. I think what he does and his ability to stick so close to what that time period's ideas are and how everything looks, he does an amazing job with, and I'd like to see that get rewarded here, specifically with the costuming. I do think Wicked's probably going to take this one. Wicked's up for a lot of awards. It's going to win some of them, and I think this is going to be one of them. Everyone likes, and I do think that it does a good job in this. And then from what I've seen of it, the costume is definitely a big part of this. It takes place in Oz, there's lots of color and stuff like that, and I do think the costumes are good there. So I wouldn't actually dislike it getting the award for this spot. I would like Nosferatu or maybe a different movie to get it, but I understand Wicked getting it here. Dune, I think, also should have been nominated. Megalopolis and Furiosa, I think, is a big one. The costumes are so huge of a part for the Mad Max franchise, and I think they were awesome in this, and they should have been nominated. Directing, I just talked about a little bit because I started talking about Nickel Boys. Unfortunately, not nominated. Instead, we have Nora, Sean Baker, The Brutalist, Brady Corbet, Complete Unknown, James Mangold, Emilia Perez, Jacques Dillard, and The Substance by Corley Fargo. Perez, the only one I did not see on this list, and I think Corbet maybe, but there's some weird AI stuff he was doing that I think might knock it down a little bit for me. I think The Substance was really well directed. It's a fairly long movie that I think the pacing is done really well, and a lot of that is the directing and just the whole flow of everything. I would like to see that win. I think The Brutalist has a really good chance to win it, though, and I could even see Emilia Perez win it, which I would not totally like. I think Villeneuve not being nominated is an affront against the awards. I think he had the best directed movie. I think Dune Part 2 is amazing, and a huge part of that is Villeneuve. I also loved Hundreds of Beavers, which may not technically be a 2024 release, but it got its wide release in 2024. It had festival stuff in like 2022, but it really got its actual release in 2024. I think it should be nominated for something at the Oscars here. I think Cheswick does a great job. One of the funniest movies I've ever seen, period, not just this past year, and I think it deserves for it. Coppola, Megalopolis, you're going to hear me sing the praise of that movie so much. Guadagnino and Challengers, I think, was amazing. I think his direction and everything, shot composition, all that kind of stuff is huge from him, and I think he deserved his flowers. George Miller, I think, does a great job in Furiosa. Eggers in Nosferatu, I already know. I've already mentioned how much I love him. Rumble Ross, Nickel Boys, I think, is great, and I think Sales and I'm Still Here, a big thing that it does in that movie is first 45 minutes or so, it's very calm, it's very fun, it's very chill, it's a big family movie for the most part, and then once it hits its spark, once the tragedy happens, it completely switches, and I think it's so important to have that first 45 minutes, to have that change of tone, and it's done very well, and I think the directing is a huge part of that. The next two are documentary feature and documentary short. I did not watch any of these. I was hoping the shorts were going to be in that showing at the theater, but they were not, which I was a little surprised by, but also would have been like 5 hours then instead of 3.5. So understandable to cut that a little shorter. The nominees are Black Box Diaries, No Other Land, Porcelain War, Soundtrack to Coup d'etat, and Sugarcane. I don't know much about any of these. I could have looked into them a little bit, but I don't know, so I can't really give much opinion on them. Same goes for the short films, Death by Numbers, I Am Ready, Warden, Incident, Instruments of a Beating Heart, and The Only Girl in the Orchestra. Same kind of thing. I didn't see any of these. I can't give an opinion on things I don't know about. Next is film editing. The nominees being Sean Baker for Anora, David Jansko for The Brutalist, Nick Emerson for Conclave, Juliette Wilfling for Emilia Perez, and Myron Kirstein for Wicked. Conclave, Brutalist, and Nora, I all very much enjoyed. I think The Brutalist gets this, and I think it should get this. I think the editing in The Brutalist is really well done. I think it's great, and I think it deserves to win the award for it. I do, however, think that Challengers had better editing. I think there's a lot of cuts and things between the scenes and how they fit together is really, really impressive and really well done. I also think Dune had amazing editing as well. I mean, every category could probably have Dune in it. Megalopolis, I think, was also very well edited. I think that what is done with that, with some of the effects and things, is bolder than anyone has dared to be in the last 20 years, and it's a sad thing that it's not being rewarded for it. I think Beavers, a huge part of it is the editing of it, with all of the gags and stuff like that. And I think it should have been, thrown in there. Furiosa, I think, is another one, the grand scale epic, and Nickel Boys, I think a big part of the POV shots and how it is edited works really well for the film due to the surprise kind of twist thing at the end, and how it's shot and how it's edited. I think goes really well into that, and what makes the movie work so well for me is because of those things, and to not be nominated for it I think is very, very disappointing. Next is the international feature film. Nominees are I'm Still Here from Brazil, The Girl with the Needle from Denmark, Emilia Perez from France, The Seed of the Sacred Fig from Germany, and Flow from Latvia. I did only see 2 of these. I know that Emilia Perez should not win, but I think, unfortunately, it likely will. It's nominated for so many things. There's a really good chance that it gets this victory, unfortunately. I do think I'm Still Here should win it. The movie surprised me so much with how well it's done and how good all the performances are and how much I enjoyed it in general. And I think it's really disappointing that it's going to be likely overshadowed by Emilia Perez, which I just think is just not a good film. And according to most people, critics don't like it. The general populace don't like it. I don't know who likes this film. I don't know why it's nominated for so many things, and it's just so weird that it is, and it just makes me a little upset. Next is makeup and hairstyling. The nominees are A Different Man, Emilia Perez, Nosferatu, The Substance, and Wicked. I think A Different Man, Nosferatu, and The Substance all have some really impressive prosthetics and facial and body makeup that is super, super impressive. And while, again, I have not seen Emilia Perez and Wicked, I don't think there's as much of that in those, and to the point that it is. A Different Man and Nosferatu I would like to see win. I think I like those movies a little bit more, so I'd like to see one of those win. Unfortunately, I do think Wicked will probably take it, just because it's just one of those movies that has that kind of, you think about it for that, Dune and Furiosa, I think, were snubbed from the category. I think Furiosa especially, there's a lot that they do with the makeup and the hair for these specific characters, and to show off that kind of area, and I think it's disappointing that it's not going to get the nod for it. Score, music original score, The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. I think The Brutalist should win for this out of these nominees. I think Dune and Challengers have better scores that were not nominated for it. I think it's ridiculous that Dune was decided to be not eligible for it. They said there wasn't enough new in the score compared to the last one, but Wicked is nominated, and the majority of that score is taken from the play. So that doesn't seem very original to me. So I'm a little upset that Wicked is there and Dune isn't. And unfortunately, I think because of that, Wicked likely will win. If it's there, if they felt the need to put it there, then I have a chance. I have a feeling that it's going to be the one that gets it, and that's going to make me upset. Original song, the nominees are El Mal from Emilia Perez, The Journey from 6888, Like a Bird from Sing Sing, Mi Camino from Emilia Perez, and Never Too Late from Elton John, Never Too Late. Like a Bird's probably the only one that I've heard, so that's my pick. I like to see Sing Sing get as many awards as it can. But I do think it'll likely go to El Mal or Mi Camino from Emilia Perez. Once again, it's nominated for so much, it's got to win something, and I think this is one of the categories it gets. It has two of them. That's a much better chance of winning than any of the other movies. Best Picture, the nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. My pick is Dune. It should be no surprise. That was probably my favorite movie of the year, and the next two would be The Beavers, Hundreds of Beavers, and Megalopolis, which weren't nominated, so I couldn't pick them. I think they were snubbed. I think Challengers and Sing Sing also not being up for Best Picture is very disappointing, and I think they should all be here instead. I think Brutalist has a really good chance of winning this. I think Emilia Perez, just for how much it's nominated, has a good chance of winning it. Maybe Wicked, but I don't really think so. I'll be shocked if it's not one of those three, though. If it's not Brutalist, Emilia Perez, or Wicked, I'll be very surprised. I hope Brutalist out of those three is the one that gets it. I think it's more deserving than the other two. Production design, the nominees are Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. I think Dune should win. Who would have expected this? Dune, I think, once again, the scale, the stadium that they fight in, all of the ships, all of the castles and the palaces, I think look amazing, and I think it should be rewarded for that. I don't think it will. I think Wicked will probably win it, and I don't think this is a terrible award for Wicked to win. The sets that they created for this movie are really, really cool and impressive. I just don't think they're shot very well. The directing stinks in that movie from what I've seen, and I will be hating on it, even though I haven't seen the full thing because I don't think it's worth my time. Nosferatu being a period piece, I think has a good chance. Brutalist being a bit of a period piece, and also it being specifically about architecture, I think has a really good shot of winning it. But I'd like to see Dune win. A Conclave, I'm a little surprised there. I think it does a good job. I think the sets and all that are great looking, but I just don't know if it necessarily deserves a win. Live action short is the next one. The nominees were Alien, Nuja, I'm Not a Robot, The Last Ranger, and The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. I'm Not a Robot, I think, was my favorite. It also helps that it's a bit of a genre that I like. There's the whole secret robot thing, and then there's also, it has Creep by Radiohead in it, which obviously, if you know me, you know I'm a huge fan of Radiohead, and specifically Creep, so that's going to be my favorite. That's who I want to win. I think Alien has a really good choice. I think it was a very powerful film, and I think it was very good. But it's going to be hard for me to pick anything but the one that had Creep in it. I also think The Man Who Cannot Remain Silent was really cool. And I would like to see that one potentially win if I'm Not a Robot doesn't. But I think Alien is going to be the one that probably takes that. Sound. Nominees are Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. I think Dune should win this, and I don't think it should be particularly close. There's so much done with sound in this movie, and that's a big thing with sci-fi, is if you can get the sound right of everything, then you're going to have a great film on your hands, and I think the fact that it is nominated for it, I think is a good shot that it might actually win. I think this is the one that Dune is going to actually get, and I hope it does, and I think it's totally deserved. I think Furiosa and Challengers are both snubbed from this spot, but I think that does great stuff in Dune. Visual effects. Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. Surprisingly, I'm not picking Dune for this one. I think the Apes should win. I think the Apes movies are awesome. I'm a huge fan, and I think the monkeys are real in this movie, man. I think the apes are real. They look so real, and it impressed me so much watching this movie. When your entirety of your leads are all that's awesome for me. Like, the fact that they all seem so real and they all look so good, I think is amazing. I think Better Man would be really cool to win. I love that movie. I thought it was really, really, really good. But I think it has just a little less apes than the Apes movie, so I don't know if I can quite give it to it. But I think Dune's probably going to be the one that ends up winning. If it's getting sound, I think it's going to get visual effects as well. which I don't think is a terrible thing. However, Megalopolis, Furiosa, Challengers, I think all snubbed from this nomination. And the last two we have are the Writing Awards. First, for Adapted Screenplay, the nominees are A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing. I think Nickel Boys should get this. I think it does a great adaptation of the true story that it's based upon. And I think the way it's set is really well, and I think it should be rewarded for it. I don't think it gets a lot of other nominees or nominations, and the ones that it is nominated for, I think there's maybe other better spots for it. I think this is the one where it can take it, and I really hope Emilia Perez does not get it. I think snubbed from this, Dune and Megalopolis. Megalopolis is a weird one. I don't know technically if this would be up for adapted or original, but either way, I think it should be nominated for it because I think it's awesome. Dune, I think to do a Dune adaptation, a lot of people said it was very difficult. It couldn't be done well, and Dune Part 2 does an amazing job. So I think it definitely deserves a nomination for it. And finally, the last one is the Writing for Original Screenplay. Nominees are Anora, The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5th, and The Substance. I think A Real Pain should do it. I think this is a very heavy dialogue film, and so I think the writing has to be really good for that, and I think it deserves it. And I really hope it does it because I think it's also really funny if Jesse Eisenberg gets an Oscar for a writing category. I think that's really cool, and I like that. I think The Brutalist will probably get it. I think it doesn't not deserve it. I think it, if anything, it probably does. I think it's very good. I think it's very impressive. I think it's so huge, so epic, so grand, and to be able to do that well is very impressive. So, and to have it not be based on anything else, I think is also a big part of that. So I think Brutalist getting, I would not totally hate that either. But I would like to see Real Pain get it. And I think Challengers and Megalopolis are snubbed from this. I think Challengers is awesome, and it should have been nominated for plenty of things, but it did not get any. And I think that's ridiculous. But those are my thoughts on the Oscars. I hope you go check out the awards and see how I did. And once again, I'm going to plug, you got to follow Letterboxd, okay? Letterboxd is important stuff. You're going to be able to see all the movies that I see, all my recommendations for things, and maybe you'll find something that you didn't know you were going to like until you're like, oh, Michael liked this a lot. Let me check it out. And then you do, and it's awesome, such as Megalopolis. So that's all I have. Those are all my predictions. Those are all my thoughts on these Oscar-nominated films. Depending on how well this does, I might just do a more in-depth breakdown of all the movies from last year that came out that I can really dig into a little bit. But thanks for watching, and make sure to check out the Oscars tonight at 7. So, thanks. Bye.
6,100.